Everyone. So I wanted to give you a video example of the argument essay that you will be writing in class later this week. We are going to use a different prompt than the one here. I will give you that at the end of this video. Our sample prompt right now is, in Pride and Prejudice, which character is the friendliest? So I'm going to go through not only the components of what you will be writing, but give you an example along the way. So your introductory paragraph should begin with a hook of some sort and end with a thesis that you will prove. Your thesis can be very simple, simply going with the character that is the friendliest in Pride and Prejudice is so-and-so, or you can include the counter argument with yours as well. So here's my sample one. I started with a hook that said the dictionary defines friendly as showing kindly interest and goodwill. While some may say that Mr. Wickham is the friendliest character in Pride and Prejudice, Mr. Bingley is the friendliest character. So again, you can see that this example inserts the counter argument, acknowledging that some might say that Mr. Wickham is the friendliest. It could use a little work, to be honest. I might want to put in some reasons, but it is certainly a working thesis statement. The next part is to look at your body paragraph. Now, you will only have 4 paragraphs in this essay. So the intro is 1, and then the first body paragraph. You're going to write your topic sentence. Then you're going to give 2 pieces of evidence to support your opinion. So you want to introduce your evidence. You want to give the passage or excerpt in quotations. Cite it. So give me the page number. You do not need to worry about the author, just the page number. And then you want to explain to your reader how this quote proves the topic sentence. And you will do this twice. So in our example, I said, Mr. Bingley is the friendliest character in the book. Readers first meet him and see his interest and goodwill towards his new neighbors early in the book. So I've again sort of combined the dictionary definition in my, not necessarily my topic sentence, but the second sentence, sort of my bridge sentence. Now I want to give the information, but I have to introduce it. So I said in chapter 3, the narrator describes Mr. Bingley's behavior at the first ball he attends, saying, this is a direct quote from the book, he was lively and unreserved, danced every dance, was angry that the ball closed so early, and talked of giving one himself at Netherfield. That's found on page 12. Notice that my quotation marks end before I give the page number, and the period goes after. So not only was Bingley talkative with his new acquaintances and danced to every song, he regretted the ball ended early, and his talk of holding a ball suggests he wanted to continue the company of his new neighbors. And that just sort of summarized what the quote was about. I need to explain it. This behavior, getting to know others and spending time with them, clearly shows his friendly interest in people. Furthermore, notice that transition, he has just met these people and has known them for but a few hours, and his offer to hold the ball suggests he is willing to invest more than time with his new neighbors. He is willing to invest his money and open his home to them. I want to do this a second time because I need another piece of evidence. So this maybe didn't convince you that Bingley is friendly. Readers later see Mr. Bingley's friendliness in chapter 44. In this chapter, he observes to Elizabeth in conversation with a tone of regret that it was a very long time since he had had the pleasure of seeing her. It is above 8 months. We have not met since the 26th of November, when we were all dancing together at Netherfield. Page 293. So while this may not seem to mean too much, Bingley chose the time to say this to Elizabeth when others attending the gathering were otherwise engaged in conversation. So only the two of them heard his words. His words and tone, as suggested in the quote, show that not only does he remember the exact day since they were last together, but he regrets that it has been so long, that it has been so many months. If he was not as friendly as he is, he would not be so greatly bothered by the amount of time which has passed. Many would not even mention it. Bingley's goodwill towards Elizabeth and her sister Jane causes him to state what others would ignore. Now, any good argument is going to acknowledge the counter-argument. You're going to acknowledge your opposition. And so you, again, want to give evidence. So you introduce the quote, you give the quote or the excerpt, you cite it, explain it, and then you acknowledge the validity, like, yeah, this is true, but tell me why they're wrong. And then use evidence from the book that's better than theirs. So again, that evidence needs to be introduced, given, cited, and explained. So here's what my counter argument looks like. Well, some may say Mr. Wickham is the friendliest character, as evidenced by his ease of conversation with others. They would be incorrect. Yes, Mr. Wickham can be friendly and engaging. We see this in chapter 16 when he shows up to Mr. and Mrs. Phillips' home in Meryton for dinner. Austen writes, "The agreeable manner in which he immediately fell into conversation, though it was only on its being a wet night and on the probability of a rainy season, made her, Elizabeth, feel that the commonest, dullest, and most threadbare topic might be rendered interesting by the skill of the speaker." Page 86. So while Mr. Wickham may be able to make a boring conversation seem important, and those speaking with him feel important, this is only an appearance and based on the narration and emotions of a character. This does not show kindness necessarily towards others. We later learn that Mr. Wickham's kindness and ease of conversation is simply a way for him to earn friends, turn others against Mr. Darcy, and allow him to learn information that would otherwise take much longer to come by. So in chapter 36, Elizabeth comes to this realization when she learns of Mr. Wickham's involvement with Miss Darcy through Mr. Darcy's letter. Elizabeth, upon reflection, realizes as to his being Mr. Wickham, his real character, she had never felt a wish of inquiring. His countenance, voice, and manner, and had established him at once in the possession of every virtue. She could see him instantly before her in every charm of air and address, but she could remember no more substantial good than the general approbation of the neighborhood and the regard which his social powers had gained him in the mess. Page 233. Elizabeth never bothered to look deeper into Mr. Wickham's character or friends. She took him at face value, and while he can charm at the surface, there's nothing substantial about him. People know about him what he has told them and nothing more. This information does not show his kindness towards others, only towards himself. Then in our conclusion, we want to explain the lessons the character learns and what lesson readers can sort of take away from the character's mistakes. So in our example, I said that Elizabeth has learned that appearances don't always matter. Sometimes a person may appear to be one thing, for example, friendly and charming, but in reality, they may be something else, manipulative and dangerous. Readers can learn this vicariously through the characters. It is important to give people a chance and to be open to meeting new people, but we should also be wary. Not everyone is who they appear to be. Real knowledge of a person takes time and effort. Who knows? Our first impressions may be incorrect. So this is what I will ask you to do later in class. Your prompt, again, is going to be different than these examples. Your prompt is this. By this point in the book, by chapter 42, which character shows more pride and or prejudice, Elizabeth or Darcy? And in class, we defined pride as the opinion one has about themselves. And prejudice is basing an opinion of another based on rumor, preconceived ideas, or beliefs before meeting a person. And keep in mind, a bias is leaning one way or the other, so whether that's positive or negatively, towards a side, a position, or person. So you may prepare in advance for this. You may have your brainstorming on a sheet of paper. You may not write your essay out ahead of time. Okay, so please look through your book, find your examples. Again, you may have an outline, but you may not write this essay in advance. Good luck, everyone. If you have questions, please send an email.